Nordic horror role-playing. Get the dice rolling area here. Let's see. Show you what the dice look like. Let's roll a bunch of d6. Let's roll about 4 of them, 5 of them. Let's roll them. Oh, that didn't even roll. It just showed up. Let's do it again. That was terrible. Huzzah! So, journal entries. If we go here, there's a folder called Core Game. Click it, and here's the entire rule book. Minus the chapters that are for the GM only. Well, actually, this is all here for me. But chapters 8, 9, and 10 are not available to my players, so they won't see this. But, for instance, if we open up chapter 2, and let's look at one of the characters. Let's look at the priest. There it is. There's a full description of the class. Or not a class, really, an archetype. And some links here. Main attribute is empathy. There are 4 attributes in Vaesen. Empathy would equate to your charisma. That's their main one, empathy. Main skill is observation. All kinds of little special abilities, equipment, musical instrument, or fine wines. Let's check out musical instrument. Musical instrument, bonus 1. So it gives him a +1 die if he uses his musical instrument to make a check for a particular skill, which I guess is inspiration? I don't know. Influence the listeners with inspiration skill. Yeah. Availability is 2. That's how you can buy stuff in the game. So yeah, you guess they roll an extra die on inspiration checks. Yeah, there's all about the priest archetype. I was a skeptic like any other. Despite the color of my collar, I met with modern thinkers talking about the symbolic messages of the Bible. Leviathan, the great devil snake, was mankind's struggle against its own potential for evil. Possessions and demons were historical descriptions of the mental disorders of the time. But I saw revenants crawling out of the fjord near the village of Vestnens on the Norwegian coast. We hid inside the church and let the bells ring until the morning light drove them off. Now I know better than to be ignorant of the word of the Lord. The scriptures are true. Choosing among the suggestions below or make one up yourself. Gives you some choices like name, Elizabeth, Eric, Lydia. I know a Lydia. Maria, Otto, Victor. Last names, Blacka, Forsmark, Nistrom. Motivations that you can have, like performing a sacred mission, cleansing my tarnished soul, understanding God's creation. All characters have a motivation when you create them. Helps you roleplay. Trauma is a major event that happened in your life. All characters have to have a trauma. It's probably what introduced you to what is called the sight, which allows you to see the Vaesen creatures in our real world. Those spiritual entities, those not always evil, but you can't normally see them. Only a select few can see them, and that's the premise of the characters in Vaesen. You can see them, and it's usually due to some trauma that occurred in your past. You have to have a trauma when you create your character. Here's some suggestions. For this particular guy, he was hurt, or he hurt someone after being enthralled by a witch. That's a good one. Or perhaps he watched a church grim tear apart some thieves trying to steal the church silvery. That would be quite a traumatic event. Or possibly the third owner of a spiritus serving the church to avoid being twisted. Not sure what that means, but yeah, those are some examples. Then everybody has what's called a dark secret. which can come up during gameplay. And again, you have to start with one of these. And here's 3 suggestions for the priest archetype. The devil speaks to me. Or this one, I have stolen my identity. So he's not really what he seems. That would be interesting in a game session. Or ensnared by a Vaesen. In other words, one of these Vaesen entities holds sway over this particular character. And again, these things could come out during the game at the game master's discretion. Particularly useful in campaign play. Also, you got to figure out your relationships with the other characters, almost like Traveler. Choose a relationship for each of the other player characters in your group, or make up your own. Here's some examples, 3 of them. I am better than you. So in other words, look at the other player characters, and for each one, come up with a relationship. What is your relationship with this other person? Like I might say, with Jesse's character, my priest, maybe Jesse's character is my disciple. That's one of the options here. My disciple. Maybe his character is whatever. But I could choose that he's my disciple, and we'll role play that as we play. One interesting thing about this is that normally, by default, no player can have the same archetype. So you can't have 2 priests. They all have to be different, which is interesting. So there is that. And then finally, it goes into your stats, the things that you're good at, the things that you can have higher values in because you're this archetype. For example, main attribute. Every archetype has a main attribute, something that really they're good at. Remember, every character has 4 attributes: physique, precision, logic, and empathy. That's the 4 attributes. If you know AD&D, I'm talking, they equate to things like strength, dex, constitution. Well, in this game, there's only 4. And in the case of this archetype, the priest, his main attribute is empathy. Okay? What does that mean? That means he can have 1 higher in that attribute at first level compared to other characters. For instance, your attributes are, I think they're maxed at 1 to 3 for first level characters. It's either 1, I think it's 1 to 3. But you can make this guy here can make his empathy as high as 4 because it's his main attribute, because he's a priest. He can have higher than that minimum or maximum of 3. I think it's 1 to 3 for first level characters. Works the same way with skills, except skills are rated at first level from 0 to 2, I believe. 0 would be unskilled, and then there's 1, and then there's 2. Well, for the priest, he can have an observation skill of 3 at first level, because that's the main skill of his archetype. So that's what that means there. Talents are things you choose, like he has 3 choices. He could choose absolution, he could choose blessing, and he can choose confessor. He picks one at first level. Let's pick blessing. What is that going to benefit me? I could choose that as my talent, and you can use them during gameplay, like once per mystery. Blessing. Once per session, you can bless an object or another player character. The player character or anyone using the object gains the blessed advantage, adding +2 to a test of their choice. All modifiers in this game are in the form of dice. So +2 is +2 dice, D6s throughout the game. You don't use any other dice. The advantage expires upon use or when the mystery is over. You can only bless the same character or object once per mystery. So that's how that works. That's pretty good. I could bless, maybe the detective has a revolver. I could bless his revolver, so he gets +2 when he tries to attack with it. Just that one time. Could come in handy. And then he's got some equipment that he can pick from to have. He gets a musical instrument or fine wines, writing utensils and paper, holy water, or an old Bible. So he basically gets two things that you pick from here. It is Iron Man. It's a different kind of Call of Cthulhu, but there is some similarity in its premise. It does have things like fear. You can go insane and all that, but it's not a separate mechanic like it is in Call of Cthulhu. Insanity is what I'm referring to. It doesn't have that. But there are fear checks, and they usually kick into gear whenever something shocking, like maybe you see a dead body for the first time. That's going to shake anybody. Or maybe a dead body that's particularly mangled or gruesome looking. That would be a fear test. Or seeing a Vaesen, especially for the first time, causes a fear check based on the Vaesen. Some Vaesen are particularly fearful. And it's essentially another role that you got to attempt to succeed, usually more than once. That kind of thing. And if you take enough mental conditions, that's the way this game represents damage. Through conditions, there's no hit points. Once you receive enough conditions, you can become broken. And that usually results in receiving a critical injury as well. In this case, a mental critical injury. You automatically get a critical injury whenever you go broken. You could be mentally broken, or you could be physically broken, or both. And as soon as that happens, you get all these negatives for one thing, plus you get a critical injury. In this case, for mental critical injury, it would have something, nasty, very similar to the way it works in Call of Cthulhu when you go insane and you gain these strange mental effects, side effects to your character. So that can happen. That's how you die. Once you take a certain number of mental and or physical conditions, which is normally 4, you are broken. And if you don't heal your critical injury in time, and a lot of them have time limits, like within 1d6 rounds, or 1d6 hours, or 1d10 days. That's a long time, actually. But there's a time requirement where you have to be healed by another character to get rid of that critical injury. If you don't, within that time limit, you fall into madness or you die, depending if it's a mental or a physical broken status or critical injury that you've received. So that's how that works. The cool thing about this is it uses the Year Zero engine, which is a fantastic game system for role-playing and narrative-driven storytelling. Fantastic. Easy to learn. And fits this particular genre quite well. There's that. And second of all, essentially what this is, it's a horror role-playing game. It's all about mysteries and solving them. It's all about investigations. Combat is lethal and dangerous. You're not going to normally kill a Vaesen. Just like in Call of Cthulhu. You're not going to kill Call of Cthulhu. Normally what happens is you deal with underlings. You're investigating things. You're trying to solve a mystery. And you're trying to figure out how to defeat the Vaesen. And usually in every mystery, every adventure, it involves a Vaesen. And you're trying to figure out how to defeat this Vaesen. Like maybe this Vaesen is out and about and causing havoc late at night, murdering parishioners of the church, because perhaps a nun had an illegitimate child, and she killed the child and buried it in the cellar of the basement of the church. And because of this, there's the presence of a Vaesen. And this happened hundreds of years ago. And you, the investigators who have the sight, the gift of being able to see Vaesen. Imagine somebody today in the real world, if they have clairvoyance, they're able to see ghosts. It's kind of like that. You can see Vaesen. And you go on these mysteries and try and solve them, these things that you hear about. This could be a mission. You're going there to solve this mystery, and through the adventure, you learn and pick up all these clues. It was a nun. Hundreds of years ago, we found the writing. Here is her diary. It was hidden away in the walls of the church. Quick, let's read it. You find out certain clues. And eventually, hopefully, the characters will figure out, we gotta go down in the basement and look for the bones of this baby, consecrate the ground and rebury it. Maybe we need to bless the ground or the bones themselves and rebury it. It's the only way to defeat this Vaesen. So that's what they would figure out as they play, as this Vaesen comes out late at midnight as the bells chime, looking for those that disturb the baby's bones, to kill and destroy them. Who knows? But that's kind of like what this is about. And I love it. I think it's fantastic. And in this case, Vaesen, it's all about Nordic myth, Nordic Vaesen. It's all around the Nordic setting. It's set in a made-up Sweden. And your players are based in a city called Uppsala. And they have their little headquarters there that they can upgrade in a campaign game. You know, they can do all kinds of upgrades to it. Very cool. They can help you on your mysteries. But from there, from Uppsala, they go on all these missions throughout the Scandinavia, essentially. Sweden specifically. It's a mythical Sweden, you know. Same names and stuff. Stockholm and all that is in there. But it's where Vaesen are real and, you know. But here's the cool thing. They've been talking about this at Free League quite a bit. And what they're going to do is they're going to start expanding with setting books to cover different parts of Europe, Asia, and America so they can handle new types of horror. Like for Northern Europe, it would be vampires and werewolves. For America, it would be North American Indian-themed horrors and myths. Or 19th century classic Gothic horror from Poe and such. You'd be dealing with that kind of stuff. And they just released their first setting book, which is based on Northern Britain. So you're getting a lot of that Celtic mythology that, you know, you can have some horror games set within. New types of Vaesen. Hound of the Baskervilles type of thing, you know. And another good setting that's been hinted at that I think they should do is one for Japan or Asia, because the Asian horror is particularly nasty and interesting. And the setting, by the way, is 19th century. So anywhere from Napoleonics, that era, all the way up to the gay 90s, Victorian era. So you could set it anywhere in there. But that's the setting. So imagine that. That's fantastic. Let's take a look at Uppsala. Uppsala. Of course, this is just a straight up map. Oh, here's a, what's that? Uppsala, Science and Fairy Tales. The Uppsala Asylum. The police station. Is there links to this? There's a link right here. It's only one. Oh, here's another one. The Uppsala Botanical Garden. I'm curious why there's no images to these pins on the map. It's just a big square. The Uppsala Asylum. Let's check this out, James. Oops. This is the same thing I was just looking at. Here's the asylum. The player characters can be admitted to the asylum for treatment of madness. They can also come across people who have encountered or been afflicted by Vaesen and are thought to be insane. Lower-class patients are starved, shackled, and put in convenient boxes, or confinement boxes, sorry. They are treated with laxatives. Their skin develops ulcers after being smeared with irritant substances. Insanity is attributed to mucus, and so the patient must be cleansed. All treatment is supervised by Dr. Nicholas Fried, a man of small stature and good humor, who is convinced his treatments are effective. He is supported by a large group of orderlies, guards, and physicians. Uppsala University Hospital. There have been health facilities in the area for hundreds of years, and it is rumored that the people who died on their sickbeds are bound to this place, haunting the new hospital. These creators are said to torment the patients and scare doctors and nurses into madness. The Uppsala Asylum. The city's mental asylum is encircled by a black iron fence. Patients arrive at the brick building in wagons, but rarely leave except in a casket. It is a place for half-wits, lunatics, and people who have caused outrage in the parish. Patients are divided into first and second class, depending on their financial situation. Wealthier patients are treated well and have meals brought to their rooms on a tray. Lower-class patients are starved and shackled and put in confinement boxes. I read this before. So yeah, interesting. This is about Uppsala, some locations they're in. And this is where the PCs are based. They'll have a headquarters here somewhere. I don't know where. Is this it? Oh yes, this is it. This is their headquarters. Castle Gallenkreuz. This is an image of it. That's what it looks like. This is their headquarters. No, I don't want a token for the headquarters. Get out of here. It's located right here. And it has its own character sheet, by the way, because you can upgrade this. Like most of the Year Zero engine games, they all have something similar to this. Well, this is their headquarters in Vaesen. And they can do all kinds of upgrades. And this is basically things that can help them in various future missions. Or not missions, but mysteries, they're known as. Like here's one here called the library. An enormous library. Its function: clues can be found there. That's all it says. Let's put it in the chat and see if it's any different. Cost 0. Prerequisite available at the start. Function: clues. Description: enormous library. So yeah, they can upgrade this stuff in the future as they play. So that's for a campaign. My game is going to be well, hopefully it'll become a campaign, but right now I'm treating it as a one-shot with my players, the rogues, and after that I'll break it out and see if anybody else wants to have a one-shot. I'll pull you in and we'll give it a shot. For those that are interested in this sort of thing. There's a butler here. Algot Frisk. Elgad is already at the castle when you move in. His function is he manages the headquarters for you. Ah, that's good. Characters. Animals, headquarters, initiative tokens, NPC templates, the Dance of Dreams, which is the adventure we're playing, and a folder for Vaesen. These are all the actors in the Dance of Dreams adventure I'm going to be running. NPC templates. Let's bring out... These are boring tokens. Let's bring out a journalist. That's what the token looks like. Double click it, opens the character sheet. That's the character sheet. This is the main page, and then there's a note page. That's about it. Of course, there's no stats here. Well, actually there is. He's got physique, logic, precision, and empathy. Yeah, his skills are filled in and everything. He's totally unskilled in the physical skills of agility, close combat, and force. So he's literally just rolling 2 dice for that because his physique is 2. And if you don't know, what you do when you make a skill check is you roll your skill value added to your characteristic value, whatever characteristic is associated with that skill. For instance, physique is a characteristic, and the skills associated with it are agility, close combat like melee and fighting with swords, and force, where you're using brute force to do something. Agility would be where you're trying to escape and run away, or I believe climbing a tree, for instance, that kind of thing. That would be an agility check. So if this journalist is confronted by a large door and it has to be forced down, get out of the way, everybody, move. He's going to make a physique, or he's going to make a force check. So he adds his force skill of 0 to his physique score of 2. So he's literally rolling 2 dice. So what the player does is he clicks this button, force, and it should roll for him. Let's do that and see what happens. Yeah, here it is. Attribute 2, skill 0, base dice pool 2 dice, bonus none, damage none. Let's roll. He needs a 6 to get a success. He got 2 successes. Ow, that is fantastic. Double 6s. So he not only pushed that door down, but he broke it completely off the hinges and has actually made his way into the room already. That was quite energetic of him. Well done, James, the journalist. And that's it. That's the game system right there in a nutshell. That's the core mechanic. And there's a lot of little things, like if you're wearing armor, that deducts from your damage. Weapons that you use do a certain number of points of damage. Every point is a condition. Remember I was talking earlier about how you're damaged in this game? 1 point of damage from a club would equate to you receive 1 condition to your physical. So he'd gain a physical condition. Conditions subtract 1 per condition to every check you make based on physical attributes. Like in this case, physique and precision are physical. So any skill checks utilizing any of these skills, agility, close combat, force, as well as medicine, ranged combat, and stealth, would suffer -1 per physical condition you currently have. That's how it works. If you're wearing armor, that deducts damage on a one-to-one basis, and so on and so forth. Thanks for thinking of me. Right now, I just need to get to bed earlier. You do, James. What time do you usually go to bed? We usually play our games right around this time. We usually start. I think I have 4 against the old ones somewhere. Sounds very Cthulhu-esque. All right, let's click off the journalist. Let's go over here and bring in an animal. Our unlucky journalist is confronted by a badger who dives out of the cupboard to attack. Our unsuspecting hero, the badger, of course, is up first. He gets 1 slow action and 1 fast action. That's how the game works. You get 2 actions every turn. You get a fast action, you get a slow action. Slow action is usually associated with close combat attacks or skill checks, things that take a little bit more time. Fast actions can be used as reactions when it's someone else's turn, perhaps to dodge out of the way or to block an attack that's coming your way, or to do something mundane or quite important, like falling to the ground, or drawing a weapon, or pulling out your holy cross. Those would be fast actions. In this case, the badger's up first in initiative. It's going to attack. Let's check out its stat sheet. Oh boy. This has a little different layout from a normal character sheet, but it still has 4 attributes, but they're called differently. In this case, might, which is valued at 5, body control, which is valued at 4 in this case, magic, which is 0. The badger has no magic ability. He's just a badger. And manipulation, which is a 0. He's not very good at manipulating things because he can't speak. But he does a body control and might. He has conditions, so he's easy to defeat. He only has 1. So if he's wounded just once, this box will be checked, and his toughness will be -1. Not sure what that means. I'm new to this game, remember. He's got 1 attack, a claw bite. No gear, no armor. So let's make his claw bite attack. That'll be a slow action, so it's 1 action. He's going to make that attack. What do I click here? This? Yes. He's going to be rolling 5 dice, needing at least 1 success. And remember, every 6 rolled is a success. It does damage 1. That means if he hits, our journalist will receive 1 physical condition. He could take up to 3. A 4th one will break him. So let's roll. This badger lunges at our journalist, biting and clawing. He gets 1 success. All right, now our target, the journalist, has no armor. He can use his fast action against a melee attack that's successful to block or parry. So let's say he has a club out and he's going to try and block this attack. Let's see how that works. This will be his reaction. Remember, it's not the journalist's turn yet. But if he doesn't do something, he's going to take 1 damage, 1 physical condition. So I think it's force that you use to block. I don't remember. I'd have to look in the rule book. Or is it? Yeah, I think it's force. He's attempting to block. Now, he has a force skill of 0, so it doesn't add anything. So his only value he has is his physique attribute. So he's only going to roll 2 dice to do this. Now, the goal here is to roll more successes than the attack. In this case, there was 1 success by the badger. So he only has to get 1 success to nullify it. All right, so he's going to do that. He gets 2 dice. Let's roll physique. Well, let's roll force. 2 dice. Nope. Now, he can, as an option, push this, but he's going to take an automatic condition. But he gets to re-roll every dice that was not a 6. Now, since I'm trying to avoid 1 condition, and I'm going to gain a condition automatically after this push, I'm not going to bother pushing. So we'll just take the 1 damage. This is a full character sheet now. And again, resources, capital, age and experience, archetype, picture, name. Over here is his motivation, trauma, dark secret, vantage, memento. Down here we have physique, precision, empathy, and logic with all the skills in each. This isn't filled out, so there's no stats. Down here at the bottom is conditions. This is where the player, taking a physical condition from the attack by the badger, would checkmark one of these boxes. There's 3 different physical conditions he can choose from, and the player chooses what condition he wants to take, and he has to role play it. It has to make sense. The GM has to say, yeah, I agree, you can take that. Let's say our journalist here, James, decides to take battered. So he would click this button, battered. Battered means he's taken some injuries, and whatever, he falls to the ground, as these claws and bites rip into his flesh and tear at his face. Maybe he'll be scarred. But the effect is he has 1 condition. So what'll happen from this point on, he's going to have a -1 to any physical-based skill check. That would include striking with his club. That would include attempting to block against a melee strike. Any kind of physical-related skill check would have -1 on it because he has a physical condition, 1 physical condition. You get a -1 for every condition. And if this was mental damage, it works the same way, except that it would affect mental skill checks, like inspiration and manipulation and observation, learning and vigilance. All those would be affected by it. Once you take 3 conditions in either mental or physical, you are broken. Broken is where you automatically fail all your checks. If it's physical, you're probably laying on the ground in bad shape and dying. You got to take a critical injury immediately. It's randomly determined. And mental, you're going insane. You're fearful. You're gibbering and you're jabbering. What you can do is very limited. You can still basically move, like to flee and run away. I think you can protect yourself by blocking, but mentally, your skills you just can't do it. But it works the same way. You don't want to be broken if you can avoid it. And let's see, there's a combat page here where you can put your weapons, keep track of your critical injuries. There's a talents page. You only have 1 talent at first level. You put that in here and be able to use it. They're unique to your archetype. Gear, that's things you might have, like the priests can have the Bible and some writing stuff. You'd put that here and they might help you in the story in some way. Notes, including your relationships with the other players and any notes you want to keep. Yeah, so that's the character sheet. And you can roll right off this sheet. Very good. Very nice. I think this module, it's official. They give you the entire rule book as a journal entry thing. You could share it with your players. So the first adventure that's from the rule book is in there as well, and it has tokens for all the creatures from the rule book as well as the adventure already made. Templates to use for NPCs. I'm not sure how that works. Maps already done, already keyed to journal entries. So they do all that work for you. But again, it's just the core rulebook stuff. From this, because I also have the PDF for, I forget the name of the first supplement they made, which is like 4 mysteries. I have that as a PDF. I could easily just, add those in one at a time as we play them. Get the maps, make the tokens, drag in some journal entries after pasting them into new journal entries. And that's how I'd make a new adventure. So it's easy. The cool thing about this is that it gives you the character sheets and it gives you the fancy dice, and the system where you're rolling dice needing sixes for a success. That's all built into the interface here. It would be nice if the tokens had images, though. But for $20, it is impressive. Well, you know what they did do, Iron Man? The Vaesen have images. Let me drag a Vaesen out. Here's a werewolf. Okay, so these are already made proper. They actually got images on them. Here's the troll. Boom. You double click it and it gives you all the good stuff. Let's close that. But yeah, so they did do that with the Vaesen. Except this one here, the sea monster. Mermaid summoned creature. All right. They didn't do that with the NPC tokens. They have initiative tokens. What's this? This is the headquarters token. That's actually an image. Huh. That's pretty cool. And the Dance of Dreams adventure, I don't want to click on this too much. They do have some images here. Let me drag this guy out here. I mean, that's pretty, that's okay. That's a nice little token. But it's so easy to make your own tokens. I make my own tokens all the time, and I could take them right out of the book. All kinds of cool images from the book. So that's not an issue with me. That literally takes seconds to make a token. Not a problem. Animals, they could have done that. There's not a whole lot of them. But again, I'll take these out of the book, or I'll just find them on Google, find some cool images by the author or the artist, if I can. Like for the bear and the dog and the eagle. That's not a big deal. Literally takes seconds to do. But yeah, it would be nice, you know. That's less seconds to have to piddle around with, right? And if I look at journal entries, let me close this. What is this? Okay, if I go to the journal directory and close this, this folder here is the core game. That's the rule book. Now, if I open that and come down to here, Chapter 10, The Dance of Dreams. This is the adventure that comes in the core book. There's a folder here called Handouts. And then there's 5 other files. The Dance of Dreams Adventure, Prelude, Places, Confrontation, and Aftermath. I don't know exactly how this is organized or how I'm going to be running this. I haven't looked at it yet. Like, what is this? Let's look at a handout. Oh, that's a message they get. Boy, it's a long handout. Nora's journal. The major NPCs of the Vaesen for the mystery are located in the actors directory, ready for you to drag and drop onto the map as needed. The NPCs that are not stated or not statted out in the core text are not provided, but our recommendations for them if you need them during the mystery are Igraholm, The cook can use the maid NPC template. Sven Kruse. The waiter can use the valet NPC template. Macros. Oh, interesting. I got to look through this. Yeah, so this is a lot of stuff I got to look at. I don't even have any macros in here. Nothing. That's the welcome journal entry. The first thing you should read when you first port this over to your Foundry. I haven't read it. I got to do that. So anyway, what else we got here? Rollable tables. Yes, there is some rollable tables. There's one here for initiative, which is pretty cool. You get little cards for your initiative. Mementos. Everybody starts with a memento, which is extremely useful in the game. You can only use it once per mystery. And I think it gets rid of 2 conditions that you might have, either physical or mental. You got to role play it, of course. Let's see what James gets for a memento. He's going to randomly roll this. Let's see what he gets, everybody. I'm excited. Are you excited, James? Here it comes. He's going to be a journalist. Let's see what memento he's kept with him all of his career so far. Well, there's a lot. Oh, he got something. It'll show up. A golden box from a foreign land. So it's up to you, James, to figure out what that's about. A golden box from a foreign land. Totally up to you to describe that and fit that into your character. And once per mystery, when you're suffering from 2 or more conditions, you could suddenly break that box out, cradling it in your arms, perhaps a tear coming from your eye as you suffer in pain or madness, whatever your conditions are. You begin to open the box and memories begin to fill your mind. Your eyes begin to go into an otherworldly vision. However you want to role play it, that's what you would do. What connection that gold box has to you from a foreign land is totally up to you. Maybe in your visits to the Orient on research, you had an encounter with someone in a back alley that sold you this strange box. Or perhaps it was someone that died on a battlefield that you were journaling, and you found this little golden box that he was grasping as his life faded from him on the battlefield. And you took it. Or maybe he whispered to you, "Keep this safe," before his eyes closed and he passed away. But again, it's up to you to decide what meaning that gold box has to your character. There's something that, well, for example, during the game, when you're suffering almost at death's door or losing your mind from seeing these crazy Vaesen, it's something you could cling to and role play and describe how it affects you when you overcome your conditions through this. Once per mystery, you can do that. And that's what a memento is. Pretty cool, huh? And everybody gets a memento at first level. And you'll always have it with you. You know. Golden box from a foreign land. Very cool. So anyway, that's some of the tables there. NPC traits, physical critical injuries. Yeah, like I said, when you become broken, in other words, you take your 4th condition. Let's say our journalist here has taken 3 conditions under the physical category. He's attacked by this wild maniac badger again, and it does another wound that he cannot prevent. All right, that's his 4th condition, physical condition. What happens? Well, what happens is he's broken. And as soon as you're broken, each time you're broken, because this can happen multiple times, he receives a critical injury. Now there's mental critical injuries. That's where your madness comes from. And then there's the physical critical injuries, which in our case, that's what we're going to roll here. We're going to roll physical critical injuries. You receive 1 for every time you're broken. James has been broken for the first time. So let's open up this table and let's roll randomly to see what critical injury our poor James suffers. Are you ready? I'm getting serious again, John. Prepare yourself. Let's go to the chat so we can read the result. What is it? Crush. He's been crushed. All right, so what does this look like as the badger leaps from the cupboard and attacks him with a series of claws and bites? Scratching his face, scratching and tearing at his arm. His chest and his shirt has been torn open by the attacks vicious by this wild badger. All of a sudden, as you try to catch yourself from falling down to the ground as you take one more injury and break. As you fall to the ground, so also does the cabinet. It falls down and crashes on top of you. The badger just lunging out of the way, your leg flesh still exposed and vulnerable to more attacks. But you have just suffered a crush injury. What does that mean? Well, the cabinet fell on you. Let's read. It's not fatal. What that means is you will not die from this, okay? But it's your critical injury, and this will remain with you for the rest of this mystery. Now, what's its effect? What'll happen here is one time during this mystery, from this point on, because this doesn't leave you, you will have a tremor. And your ranged combat attacks, if you ever try and throw something or shoot something, is going to suffer a -1. And it's at my discretion to apply that penalty. And I can do that once during the remainder of the mystery. All right, that's the effect of this crushing injury. And this stays with you. Now, at the conclusion of the mystery, let's say you survived. You're on the train back to the headquarters in Uppsala. During this time, you will have the opportunity to see if this injury fades away and passes, or if it stays with you for the rest of your life. In other words, it's permanently scarred you. You have a permanent limp on your leg or whatever. You get the jitters in this case. There is a chance something like this will stick with you. And once per mystery, this will kick in and you'll suffer a penalty. And that's at the discretion of the GM when that happens. But at this point, you're not going to die. It's not going to kill you. It's just going to be something that's going to last at least for the remainder of this mystery, because this big cabinet with glass just fell on top of you and cut into you. That's how a critical injury works. Crushed. Oh, it says no permanent. It says it's not permanent. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it automatically goes away. Normally, you have to roll for that. So it's not too bad. Background tables. These are used. One of the options to create a character is to use a life path style method. You know, a la Traveler, a la Cyberpunk Red. There is a system for that, but it's not the default system. The default system is where you use points based on your age. You get points to spend on skills and points to spend on your characteristics and other things like starting equipment. You just spend them. The life path is a little bit different. And it has some tables for that. What's this? Mystery tables. This must be for creating stuff. I won't look at that. That looks interesting, though. There's all the compendiums that you can import. Let's see. Is there macros? Oh, yeah, there's some macros. Here's one for D66 roll. Oh, here's one for draw initiative. Oh, I'm going to drag that to my macro bar. And here's one for reset initiative. Let's drag that in there. Let's drag the D66 in there. So, if you don't know what a D66 roll is, it's like a D10 roll or a percentile roll. One dice represents the tens, that kind of thing. So you're generating a number from 11 to 66. That's a D66 roll. So let's do that. Let's roll a D66 just for the fun of it. There it is. It says I rolled a 56. So essentially it's a D6 times 10 plus a D6. I got a 56. Cool. Let's draw initiative. Let me see. How does this work? I have to select a token I can control. Let's click on the journalist, James, and let's roll initiative. He's going to draw a card. Now, in this game, it uses cards to generate initiative. Everybody draws one card. Sometimes Vaesen draw more than one. But everybody draws one card and puts it face up in front of their character. So if it's James' turn, or it's the start of combat, you do it once. You don't do it again. You draw whatever cards you get, you're stuck with for the whole combat. The cards are numbered from 1 through 10, or ace through 10. We're at the start of a combat. James's journalist is going to draw a card and see what he gets. Now, lower cards go first. Okay, so it's ascending order. Let's see what he gets. How many initiative cards do you want to draw? Now, that's important to know if I'm drawing multiple cards for a Vaesen. Sometimes there's a Vaesen that can draw 2 or more cards, which means they go more than once in a turn. All right, we're going to draw 1 for James because he only has 1. And he got a 2. So there he goes. He's going to be going first right now. Now, unfortunately, the werewolf also gets to draw. I don't know how many cards he draws. Let's check him real quick. He draws 2. The werewolf is going to draw 2 cards. Let's see what he gets. Click 2. What does this mean? You drew these 2 cards. Choose wisely. 3 or 9. Well, he gets both, so what does that mean? Must work differently. Okay, we'll choose one of these. Game Master drew 2 cards from the initiative deck and chose the 3 initiative. What is this? So I guess I draw another one. Let me try and draw another one, but we'll just draw 1 card. And I have 4. So how would I record that during combat? He has a 3 and a 4 card. James has a 2. Oh, wow. Imagine that. 2, 3, and 4. All right. The Badger gets to draw a card. It better not be a 5. He drew a 10. All right, now this guy here, I don't know what he is. I don't know what that is. He's going to draw a card. He's going to draw 1, and he gets a 9. Now it's set up so you can't draw more than one of the same card. There's only 10. So how does that work with the combat tracker? Let me look at this. Oh, it kept track of it automatically. Look at that. So James got a 2. He's going to go first. The werewolf is next with a 4. The troll is next with 9. And the badger is last with a 10. We'll begin combat. I don't see where the werewolf can use his second card, though. Maybe I add him twice to the tracker. So I guess what I could do is create a duplicate of the werewolf and then draw a card for him. Let me see. How would I do that without creating a second token? I don't know. I'll have to investigate that. So yeah, James is first. Then we go to the werewolf his first time. Then it goes to the troll. Then it goes to the badger. And somewhere in here, the werewolf would go a second time. I'll have to figure out how that's going to work. Everything else seems to be flawless here. I think something like this would be built in, but I haven't found it yet. I'll have to look around. But if I was to hazard a guess and I had to do this on my own, I'd basically just add a second werewolf to the tracker here, who had his own initiative. In other words, drew a card separate from his first card that he drew. So effectively, you're just going twice if you have more than one card. But keep in mind, that's something that happens only with Vaesen, pretty much, as far as I know. And even then, it's rare that a creature goes twice. In other words, draws 2 cards. So anyway, that's how it works. Some actions allow you to swap cards with Vaesen or opponents in combat. Like if James strikes the badger heavily over the head and hits, and he gets multiple successes beyond just one success. In other words, say he rolled, I think he only rolls 2 dice. He only needs 1 success to hit. Well, let's say both hit. He rolled 2 6s. Okay, in that case, he hits, but for each additional hit that he scored, he can do different things. He could choose to use that additional hit as an extra point of damage on the creature. Or another thing is he could attempt to use that to swap cards with the target. In other words, he's outmaneuvering the creature and distracting him. So if he wanted, he could swap his 2, which is actually pretty good because he goes first, with the badger, who has a 10. I don't know why he'd want to do that. He'd be going last. But let's say the badger was 2 and James was 10. He could do that. He could spend his extra success to swap initiative with this creature and go from a 10 to a 2. So in the next round, he's going first. So that's one of the things you can do with multiple successes on an attack. Same applies with ranged attacks. You can do the same thing. Yeah, and run. You could do that. How would that play in the game? Let's say it's James's turn. There's this big bookcase that's up against between him and the werewolf. One of the actions he could take is to flee. It's a slow action. So that's gonna be his thing. He's gonna have to haul ass and make an agility check to do it. But he also gets a fast action as well. I would say that maybe, I don't think I would do this normally, but I would say maybe the cabinet is very precarious. It could easily be pulled down. So let's say James says, you know what? I'm going to use my fast action to pull down the cupboard and put it between me and the werewolf. Can I do that? I would say, you know what? Go ahead. Use your fast action to do that. All right. Then he decides to use his slow action to flee, which he can do. And he makes his agility roll to flee. Now, what that means, he needs a success to be able to flee. If he's successful, he leaves the battle scene. He escapes out the back door and disappears out in the woods. He escapes the werewolf. However, the werewolf, as a reaction to his attempt to flee, because they're close together, they're in the same area, he can attempt to chase as a reaction. It's a fast action to chase. So what he does, the werewolf, he attempts to roll an agility check, attempting to get more successes than James's agility check to flee. If he does so, he successfully leaps over the cabinet and blocks James from making good his escape out the back door. James wastes his turn attempting to escape and remains in the area. He does not escape. However, if the werewolf, attempting to chase after him, fails and doesn't get any successes, James escapes. And off he goes out the back door, slam, leaving his friends behind to a grim fate, to be sure. Now, how exactly would this cabinet falling come into play? I could rule that, the werewolf can't attempt to chase as a reaction, so James would escape. I could rule it that way, and that makes a lot of sense, actually. So very good, James. The only thing, though, I think, unless it was really precarious and going to fall, there would be a check required to pull that thing down. And since you can only do one slow action, that means he can't make his escape. He can't flee, because that's a slow action. So essentially pulling it down, put between him and the werewolf, would just slow him down. You know, he wouldn't be able to flee until the next turn. I don't know. It would have to be precariously balanced. It was a good try, James. No, it was successful. We'll say you made your escape. The werewolf did not tear you apart. Pulling down that precariously balanced cabinet saved your neck. Pretty cool, huh? You like that? I do. I don't have any fast actions. My slow action is to wrap the werewolf light with my cane. Tap him in the back of the legs. Off with you, werewolf. Don't you come around my friends. Make a cane strike, John. Being made by IKEA gives you a -25 die roll. that would make it precarious. It probably wouldn't do anything. It would fall apart. Just a big mess on the floor. It wouldn't even be a cabinet anymore. Yeah, sorry, James. It was made by IKEA. It does not block the werewolf's pursuit. It just exploded and went to a million pieces. That's funny. There's your IKEA. Damn you, IKEA. Damn you all. And then James is sadly ripped apart by this terrible werewolf. Keep in mind, the werewolf has 2 actions. But again, if James was successful to escape, or flee, that takes him out of the combat. He's gone. He's no longer in the tracker. He escaped, literally. And that's the end of that. So I think that's something my players will have to learn to do, especially if they get in trouble facing off against the Vaesen, because they really don't want to do that. The only reason to engage a Vaesen, if they're engageable, is basically just to slow the creature, to preoccupy and distract it, while the rest of the companions are doing some ritual. Like I said, digging up the body of the baby underneath the church that was killed by the nun because she had a baby illegitimately. Oh no, thus bringing the Vaesen around. The only way to get rid of this Vaesen, in this case the werewolf, is to dig up the baby, consecrate the ground, and say some words and rebury it. Maybe that's the ritual. If the players can figure that out. In the meantime, James is upstairs trying to preoccupy the werewolf. And the first thing he does is he pulls down the IKEA cupboard and runs away into the woods, never to be seen again. Not much of a distraction, but he survived. And it's just then, as the ritual is being done, that the basement door crashes open, and there at the top of the steps, staring down at the remaining investigators, is the werewolf. Roll initiative again. So yes, somebody would have to kind of distract them and slow them while they do the ritual, because it's the only way you're going to get rid of them. Page for dinner. Yeah, it's about that time, John. You take care, my friend. Thanks for the good laughs and cheer there. I enjoyed that. RPG is a lot more free-form than war games. Where is my rally phase? Laughing out loud. Well, maybe you ran outside, not too far away. Maybe you're hunkering maybe 100 feet away in the wood's edge, or near the cemetery, hiding, watching to see if it pursues, thinking about, boy, should I go back? Should I help my friends? I know they're in the basement. I feel cowardly now. I'm going to go back. You could do that. You could do that. Of course, what was the point of running away? If not to save yourself, maybe it was for some other purpose. Perhaps you had to retrieve something important to the ritual that you forgot. Maybe. But in this case, we don't know. In this case, it was just to survive. But you could say you didn't go far. The point is, the creature did not pursue you and probably doesn't know where you are. He's not concerned with you now. His attention would be elsewhere at this point. Maybe at this point you would return. Some time would go by, but you could come back. Maybe surprising the creature. Maybe you appear just as the werewolf descends the steps and engages Kyle's private detective, and he's struggling with the werewolf. It's about to kill him, but you appear right at that moment at the top of the steps, and you peer down and see your two other friends, Rachel and Dizzy. They're going at the ritual now. They're consecrating. They're just covering the baby up now. The words are being spoken. In the meantime, Kyle's private detective is battling physically against this werewolf, trying to grapple and hold it to the ground. But it doesn't look good for the detective. This is where you enter. There you are at the top of the steps. Draw a card at the top of the round. You know, you're in. Then you could be the hero. Pull out your secret vial of holy water or whatever and help distract the creature as the two Rachels continue the ritual. That'd be awesome. That would be awesome. So anyway, looking at the macros, yeah, I got 3 macros loaded in here. Reset initiative. I wonder what that does. I guess that puts all the cards back, kind of like a shuffling. So if somebody had a 10, it would be back in the deck and could be drawn again. Because normally when you start a combat, everybody pulls their card. And that's what they have for the rest of this combat. It doesn't normally change unless you do something like I described earlier. And at the end of combat, you know, all the cards will be back in the deck, and that's that. You move on. Not sure what reset is. I guess maybe it's shuffling. Well, let's end the combat. Okay. There it is. Anyway, this is the setting for it. The current setting. Very cool. Players have access to this. They can look at it, and this gives them an idea. These must be train tracks. Or is there a map key on here? No. Items. Yeah, there's items here. These are things you drag to your character sheet. Now, let's go back to James again real quick. Let's open up let's bring him to the map again. Let's open up his character sheet. Let's see if he can have some equipment. Contacts, discover facilities, personnel. Those are upgrades for your headquarters, I think. Services and establishments. Vaesen magical items, physical critical injuries, mental critical injuries, talents. Alright, I see. So, alright, so there's no like archetype to drag to your character sheet. You literally choose your archetype and put it in here. Let me see. There's a writer, there's a vagabond, private detective, a servant, officer, priest, hunter, occultist, academic, and doctor. So there is no journalist. It's an NPC, but it's not a thing. An archetype, I guess. What would be the closest thing? We're going to take writer. Anyway, what I wanted to do is I wanted to see if I could drag some items. Now, basically, what you're going to have is you're going to have writing utensils and paper, camera or opera glasses. You know, depends on the time period, whether or not you have a camera. Cameras are big-ass, clumsy things. I don't know if you want a camera. So we'll take opera glasses. A pet dog or a book collection. So you're going to get all that, except you have to choose either a pet dog or a book collection. What would you rather have? They'll be useful. You know, use your imagination. Book collection it is. Okay, so let's go under equipment. Yeah, that's what it would be, under equipment. I could just search. There it is, book collection. Let's drag this to the character sheet and see if it automatically populates. I guess it would be under gear. There it is. There it is. I just drug it from items to the character sheet. There it is, book collection. Used to find information for learning. Learning is a skill. You would use it to like find clues in a room. You could refer to your books. It'll give you a bonus of 1 die. Okay, so you get a +1 dice to your skill check using learning. That's what it does. Better than a dog. What's a dog going to do? He ain't going to help you. Maybe distract the werewolf for a second. Oh, they're useful for picking up the ladies. That works too. What's this? Talents. There's also a map book. That's different though. Talents. Academic talents. Bookworm. We haven't chosen your talent yet. So yeah. Now let's find the other bits of your equipment that you start with. You also get writing utensils. So let's look for that. And paper. So there it is. We'll drag that to your sheet. There it is. Now you also get not a camera, but opera glasses. And there they are. Little spectacles. Let's see what they do. Mr. Hemingway. Use vigilance from a distance. So that allows you to spot somebody at a lot longer distance than normal. They're opera glasses. Writing utensils you can use to take notes during an investigation skill check. What exactly does that mean? I'd have to look it up, but yeah, to take notes. I guess that'll be a benefit. Well, it is a benefit. You get a +1 on the check. Yeah, well, that's it. Because you're taking notes. So whenever you use an investigation skill check, you're going to get a +1 because you have writing utensils. Don't lose them. Your book collection gives you a bonus of 1 to your learning skill check. So when you're looking for clues inside the library or inside this room, you can use your book collection to refer to things in your journal and references, as long as you have your books with you. Your opera glasses allows you to peer out the window of this room that you're searching and see from the distance if people can see you or if there's a creature in it, whatever. You get a +1 on your vigilance check, whenever that happens. Like if you're watching out for while the others are doing a ritual, you might be watching upstairs out the back door. Just, you'd get a +1 because of your spectacles. That's what that is. So that's what you start off with. You get that stuff. Now you can buy stuff as well before the mystery begins, before you travel to the destination. And if you get to the destination, the mystery site, and there's places to buy things, you can also buy things there too if you've got the funds for that. This game doesn't keep track of coins. You have a certain wealth level and you use that to to basically procure things automatically. Usually it involves a die roll, and that's it. So it's not the only equipment you have. Yeah, so there's that. That's how that works. So we got your equipment chosen. My paranormal reference because I write pulpy investigations of such things. I am regarded as a bit of a cook. But I have seen some unusual kook. Cook. But I've seen some unusual things in my travels. My career as a writer started at Chancellorsville, 1863, in America, during their Civil War. I covered the siege and was drafted into the Union Army as a pressman. This didn't last long, as it was the first exposure to either side. I'm going to grab that. There. Hold on, James. Let's copy that and put it in your notes. I kept the formatting. I'll have to get rid of that. And finally, there. Let's get rid of this formatting. It's horrible. Where is it? The hell is it? Oh. There we go. I am regarded as a bit of a kook, but I have seen some unusual things in my travels. My career as a writer started at Chancellorsville, 1863. I covered the siege of said city and was drafted into the Union Army as a pressman. This didn't last long, as it was the first exposure to the other side. It was my first exposure to the other side and the start of my travels. That doesn't make sense. This didn't last long, as it was my first exposure to the other side and the start of my travels. You just suddenly went into, well, you know what, let's do it this way. I'm a tall Maine man with thinning blonde hair and big mutton chops. There you go. All right, there's more to grab here. More to grab here. Hold on, James. Let's get rid of that terrible formatting. Who knew the battlefields would yield echoes of the paranormal? I had to know more. My travels took me. Schleswig-Holstein and eventually Uppsala. My travels. My travels. The other side capitalized. Where's that? Other side. Other side. Oh. Oh, up here. Oh, the other side. Okay. Ah. I thought you meant the Southerners. You're talking about the paranormal, the experience you had. This didn't last long, as it was my first exposure to the other side. Now I get it. And the start of my travels. I like it. So basically what we'll do is we will choose under your trauma. This is where you choose your trauma. Everybody has this, and it's usually what gives you your sight. It's your connection with Vaesen. Why do you see them? It's usually associated with some kind of traumatic event. So the only thing missing from your story here is that traumatic event. But you hinted at it. This didn't last long, as it was my first exposure to the other side. So the only thing missing from this is the mystery. Is that traumatic event. Obviously, it has something to do with the battle. Maybe during this battle, something happened where you actually saw this strange creature. Something that would later be known to you as a Vaesen. And it was through your research and studies and talking with others that you learned about Uppsala. And you learned about Vaesen. And one of the reasons you traveled to Europe and the Northlands, Uppsala, is because you heard of this group. I can't think of the name of the group. There's actually a name for them. The Society, I think, is simply what it's called. And getting in touch with those who knew of this society turned you on to it. So you sought it out, and, you're now a member of the society, just learning about Vaesen. So something like that makes sense. So your traumatic event maybe is something you encountered one. You saw one. Because normally, normal people don't see these Vaesen. You did. And it freaked you out for the rest of your, up to this point. What's going on here? And again, that led you, after some investigation, which you're good at, a writer. It's part of what you do. Got you in here. So your traumatic event, something to do with that battle of Chancellorsville and seeing this Vaesen, perhaps. I got some real culture in Italy. I told my Venetian friends. Venetian education was cut short by some Austrian vampires. Okay, now you're getting crazy with the background here. I think we're going good with this. Let's not get too crazy and complicated. You're traveling all over the place. Sir, I saw shades of Vikings and Skraelings, and Lord knows what else. And those days, pressmen held a rifle. It was hell, and I asked myself what we were doing many times. I saw shades of Vikings and Skraelings. I'll take that. I like it. Let's put that in here. Oh. Got a character all written out already, James. You're a creative fellow. I like it. I like it. Trauma. Some example traumas of writers. There's 3 of them. These are just examples. Angered fairies who put you to sleep and sucked your blood. Another one is cursed by a homeless Vaetr, to write a book in your own blood. And finally, heard the song of the neck, but failed to write down the lyrics. They're referencing Vaesen creatures, the neck, for instance. In your case, you witnessed a Vaesen in the Americas, which is cool. You got a good idea. Visions of Vikings and Norse culture filled your head, perhaps. Further investigation led you to Uppsala. I think we can leave it at that. We'll let you flesh that story out separately. I believe it was destiny and my research that brought me to this cold and eerie place known as Uppsala. We'll save that because I like it. You got to play with us now, James. Let's save that. That's enough for now. We can expand that later. Your relationships to the other PCs will be determined. Combat talents and gear to be noted. We do have your archetype, writer. All right, journalist type of writing. Nonfiction, I'm sure. But that's what you do. You've got your books, you've got your lenses, you've got your writing utensils, always with you and at your side as you found yourself here at Uppsala. Now, motivation. What's your motivation? This is something you role play with and keeps you going in the game. There's 3 examples for writers. One is finding a certain Vaesen. That's a good one. Another one is researching a book, perhaps about Vaesen. Another one is revenge. Something to do with your backstory is revenge. But this is your motivation to be here in Uppsala doing this. I think yours is pretty much self-explanatory. You're trying to solve this. Or maybe it's more detailed with your background. Maybe this Vaesen you saw killed someone. Maybe it's the reason you have that golden box. Remember that golden box? Right, so let's find that golden box. Let me see, where would I... Mementos. I forget what you rolled, a 50-something. I'd have to look back. Golden box from a foreign land. There it is. Can I drag that to your sheet? Let me just copy this. Copy. Because that's all it is, just a word. We're going to put it here under memento. Golden box from a foreign land. You can detail that later. Encountered a Vaesen. Dark secret. I recorded and used the secrets and weaknesses of my friends. Another one is wanted for revolutionary ideas. Another one is my life's work is a lie. Now, essentially what a dark secret is, and all players start with one, and based on your archetype, it recommends like 3. And those are the 3 recommended for a writer. They give you an idea. You can also create your own. But here's the thing. A dark secret is something that can come up probably at the worst possible moment. It's at the GM's discretion. Maybe secretly you're an alcoholic. Now, use your imagination. How would that come up during the game? Now, you can bet, me being the GM, there would be that critical moment where everybody's dependent on you. James, the writer, He's got that secret answer for us. He's been searching and working all night long to help us with the ritual. Turns out you were drunk all night long and didn't find anything. That's how a dark secret comes into play once during the mystery. So choose your dark secret wisely, for it may come back to bite thee in the ass. A lust for gold, perhaps? No, sir, any real gold I pawned for a train ticket long ago. It is what is in it that matters. A native shaman helped me with some bitter herbs. So we'll leave dark secret to your imagination at this point. We won't fill it in, but that's what it is. You can make up your own, but it has to be something that can have a grave effect on you during a session. Motivation. Documenting Vaesen. We'll put that you're a writer. Oh, I'm sorry. That goes under motivation. I witnessed raids in the South and am wrecked with guilt for standing by. Occasional bouts of overwhelming guilt. So powerful is the guilt that you are rendered useless, lost in your thoughts, tears perhaps. Just randomly, suddenly you run to find solitude to yourself and cry. That's a good dark secret. Racked with guilt. I'll put a little asterisk there to try to remember that. Okay, that's good. Racked with guilt. We'll go with that. Fantastic. Motivation to document Vaesen. Find meaning. In your encounter. Okay. Trauma. Counter to Vaesen. Dark secret. Racked with guilt. I got these in the wrong thing. Advantage. Now this advantage. I think this is referring to an advantage you get at the start of every mystery. During or while traveling to the mystery, everybody gets an advantage. It's based on the mystery. Maybe you met somebody on the train there that is quite familiar with the place that you're going, and that could help you to find locations or maybe, some people that might be of interest. That would be an advantage. But that stuff is to be determined when you're actually playing. How old are you? Well, you know what? Don't say, because it's important, because it determines how many skill points and characteristic points you get. But we won't go into that. We're just having some fun here. So is resources, capital, and experience. We'll save all that. We're just having fun. Because you never know. James might come back to this and play this character. Could choose your talent. Talents are unique things that can happen once during a mystery. I think it's once. You could choose from up to 3, and I'll let you choose this. One is automatic writing. You kind of know what that is. Another one is journalist. I think that's a natural. That's part of your description here. And another one is wordsmith. So let's say your talent is journalist. Let's look that up, James, and see what journalist is. What kind of bonus is this going to give you? Hey, I'm a journalist. Let's see what that does. This is in the chapter on talents, if I could find it. I wonder if that's in here. Let's go to items. There's equipment, armor, upgrades, items of power, Vaesen magic, Vaesen physical critical hits. No, oh, there they are. Talents. Here they are. Excellent. Let's put a search in here and look for journalist. There he is. Let's read it. This is a cool button click thing it could do. You may use inspiration instead of manipulation when charming or deceiving someone to gain information. So instead of using empathy, I think manipulation uses logic. Let me look at that again. Let me drag it to your sheet. Journalist. Huh. It's written like it's supposed to be linked to these skills. Maybe it is in the character sheet. I don't know. Let me go to the main page here. We're almost done here. I don't want to keep you too long. Your main attribute is empathy. And manipulation is empathy. You want to use that. You can use manipulation to influence how other people think, feel, act by lying, flirting, bribing, negotiating, haggling, or using your social skills in other ways. When manipulating someone, you describe what you hope to achieve and what you are doing. You also use manipulation to trade or purchase items and services during the mystery. Now, what this talent does, it allows you to use inspiration instead of manipulation when charming or deceiving someone to gain information. Now, manipulation is based on your empathy, which is going to be probably pretty high for you because you can be higher as a writer. It's the key skill you have, empathy. Now, as far as inspiration is concerned, let's look up that skill. Would that be something you would have, perhaps higher? Inspiration is also empathy. But here's the difference. This is why you would take journalism. Inspiration is the ability to address a crowd, encourage and guide your friends, and create or understand works of art when trying to influence the thoughts or actions of a group of people. You make an impersonation or inspiration test. So essentially, what journalism is allowing you to do, you can use inspiration instead of manipulation when charming or deceiving someone, just one person, to gain information. Normally you'd use manipulation. This allows you to use inspiration instead. What's the bonus? What's the advantage to that? Because they both use empathy. Well, the difference might be your skill level. Maybe you're more skilled in inspiration. But we don't know that. We don't know what your skill level is in inspiration or manipulation. You get to choose those later on. They're both empathy skills, and empathy's a big thing for a writer. You're going to have a big empathy skill. As high as 4. I believe it's 4. So that's possible. Let's go and see what you say, because there's 2 other options. I am haunted by a madness almost. I hear the Vaesen mocking when I remember those moments. I like that. I'm going to grab that, James. Going to grab that. Copy. Let's put that under notes. I see Max has popped in. Let me put this in here. I'll tighten this up with some editing later. But I just want to put that in here. James loves his background. Let's get rid of that formatting. It's horrible. There we go. Journalist, yes. Okay, that's already fixed. Okay. That is done. Let me go back to talents. All right, James. So, there's a start to character. You still gotta spend your points on characteristics or attributes and your skills based on your age. We'll do that next time, where we choose your age. That'll give you some points, and you can spend them where you want. Your 4 characteristics: physique, logic, precision, empathy. You probably want a good empathy. Your empathy can be higher than normal because you're a writer / journalist. Your max can be higher at first level than anyone else. And your skill, I think your main skill is manipulation. That could be higher at first level. I don't know why you'd want inspiration higher. No, I'm sorry. Your main skill is inspiration. So there you go. That's the reason why you want that higher. I think that could be as high as 3 in this case. Normally it's maxed at 2, but because you're a writer and you're good at inspiration, you can have a 3 at first level. So there is that. That's how that's going to work. And that journalism allows you to use inspiration instead of manipulation to influence folks. So that's a good little synergy you can have going there with inspiration and that journalist talent that I believe you can do once per adventure. I'm not sure. Once per mystery. So we'll leave that to the next one. And then combat is where you just fill in based on what you already decided. Got your talent. You only get 1 first level. Gear. You got your gear chosen for a writer. You got a book collection, writing utensils and paper, and opera glasses. I'm not going to have you carrying a giant camera around. Actually, during this period of the 19th century, you could actually have a camera. Now that I think about it. I'm going with the Victorian age. So you're definitely capable of doing it. We're not doing Napoleonics. So if you'd like a camera instead of opera glasses, I don't know what the hell a camera does. Pardon the French. Let's see if it's linked here. Let's look it up under items. Yeah, I should let you have a camera. Camera. Yeah, there it is. Looks like a modern camera. You get a bonus of 2. That's 2 dice added to your check. We'll see what check that is. Availability 3. You would get it right away. Effect. Use the camera to gain knowledge about a place with your learning or investigation skill. That's actually pretty useful. So you're not actually sneaking around taking pictures. And you probably are, but it's not directly going to influence it that way or played out that way. It's effectively going to give you a +2 to your learning checks and investigation checks, as long as you got that damn camera with you. And remember, it's a big cumbersome thing. You know, you put a quilt over your head and you're peeking through, and it takes like 2 hours to take a picture. You'd be doing that while you're playing the game, of course. We'd be assuming that. And that would give you +2 to your freaking learning and investigation. I wonder if it says any more. Big old giant camera. They always show up as blurs because they're always moving. But that's up to you if you want a camera instead of opera glasses, which gives you a bonus on vigilance. It's funny. I like how this game works that in. Golden box with a foreign land, from a foreign land. Are you good with that, James? What do you want, opera glasses or camera? Ravaged by guilt, he ran away from his friends who were in the basement conducting a ritual. James, the writer, was supposed to distract the creature while they buried the baby underneath the church, the now sanctified grounds underneath. As the ritual was being performed, it was James who couldn't take it. He broke down in tears, this in front of the werewolf, who kind of smirked and laughed to himself at seeing such a man-baby. James pulled the IKEA bookshelf between him and the creature and made good his escape, running not too far away, about 30 yards outside of the building, and hid amongst the cemetery stones. And there he cowardly held himself down. Tears were welling up in his eyes. He's crying. That was your dark secret that kicked into gear and affected the gameplay. You ran away when you should have been distracting the creature. However, you'll be able to come back. But at this time around, when you do come back, you come into the empty living room. The creature is nowhere to be found. You hear the commotion below in the basement where this ritual is being conducted, but you hear something else. You hear violence. You hear the tearing of flesh and screams of pain. You hear the crash of furniture. And as you head towards the steps and look down into the basement, there before you see your friend Kyle, the detective, who's in hand-to-hand combat with this giant, furry, well, the werewolf. He's doing your job. He's distracting the creature. And it doesn't look like he's doing a very good job. He's close to death at this point. As Rachel #1 and Dizzy engage in the ritual to sanctify and rebury this illegitimate child of a nun. And now here you stand. You're going to be added to the initiative once again. Your dark secret kicked into play. So we're going to start a new encounter. You're going to have your new initiative value, and we'll see what you do. One thing you don't have to worry about is your dark secret causing grief. Maybe the camera will come in handy. Snap some shots. Hey, werewolf, say cheese. Remember, you're trying to distract him. You don't want him interfering with the ritual. Anyway, that'll be our next exciting episode. As our writer / journalist, let's put journalist in there. Because that's really what you are. It's good to have fun. Finn Finnegan. Paranormal writer. Maine, 501st Rifle Company. Paranormal writer, Maine, 501st Rifle Company. Public affairs, conserve and be a journalist. Well, we'll go with that. It's all for fun, so let me save that.